Outstanding, the ultimate accolade for teachers. We challenge primary teacher Chloe Mercado to go from good to outstanding. A top inspector will observe one lesson. 2 experts will fine-tune her practice and beef up her presentation. She then gets 2 weeks to take on the advice before the inspector comes back for the final verdict.
It's just quite stressful, but I'm trying not to sort of dwell on it too much because I think I could go a bit crazy if I thought about it.
Belmont Primary is a 2-form entry school in West London. Chloe Mercado has been teaching there for 2 years.
I really enjoy teaching. I really enjoy being with the children. It's a lot of hard work, but it's a lot of fun.
The school rates her teaching as good.
I'm really delighted with her. She's very quickly understands what being a class teacher is all about. I think she's got a great sense of humour and that communicates with enthusiasm.
Chloe is teaching a Year 2 class and will focus the Good to Outstanding challenge on her science lessons.
Turn around, face me. Alicia, Lucy D, Jamie.
My class are just a really lovely bunch of children. They're really enthusiastic about all our topics. They're an absolute pleasure to teach.
She helps us say what we have to do, and if we don't know how to spell something, she would help us spell it, stuff like that.
It feels really good to be one of her pupils because she's such a great teacher.
She tells you things in a way that it would be the easiest way possible for us to know.
And I think for me, the key thing that I really want to develop is just being completely confident and happy to take things wherever they go in a lesson, rather than feeling I've got to stick to the plan rigidly.
Will you please make sure your books are closed and in a neat pile?
It's the morning of her observation.
Trying to get my head around everything, basically. Just sort of trying to stay calm so I can remember everything. But no, nervous, definitely nervous.
With hundreds of observations under her belt, School Inspector Claire Gillies leads inspection teams up and down the country. She certainly knows an outstanding lesson when she sees one.
I'm at Belmont Primary School to see Chloe Mercado teach Year 2 science.
Chloe has a 65-minute lesson to impress our inspector.
Right, I just want you to watch the board and see if you can work out what we're going to be learning about today.
Medicine.
Medicines, fantastic. You're absolutely right. Hands up who thought it was going to be medicines. Brilliant.
When you talk to young people, they'll practically always highlight the teacher's enthusiasm is key to them enjoying and feeling they're really learning well in a lesson.
Does anybody recognise any of the medicines on here? Saichi, what do we call these?
Vitamins.
They could be vitamins, and what do vitamins do?
Help you.
Yeah, but vitamins help us, don't they? They help us, they stop us from getting ill. Vitamins. What do we call this? An injection. A lot of the time we have an injection and it puts something into our bodies which stops us from getting some diseases. And it's actually called a vaccination.
The best part I like of my teacher is the way she feels and the way she is and the personality she has.
What you're going to be doing today is you're going to be thinking really carefully about that time when you were really, really ill. So the first thing we're going to think about is, why did you have to have medicine that time? I want you to just turn to the person sitting next to you.
And you had some cough medicine, did it make you feel better?
Yeah.
Did it stop you coughing?
Hey, it was quite yummy.
It was yummy, was it? Oh,
Yeah,
that's good.
it's like milk and syrup.
Okay. Imogen.
Once I had an earache and I took some medicine.
How were you feeling when you had the earache?
Painful.
It was very painful, was it?
I would like to have lots more experiments because they're nice and fun.
To take an inhaler
but I didn't like it.
And then what happens?
And then I felt better.
And then you felt better. So medicines sometimes take a long time to work, sometimes they work very quickly. So you should have lots and lots of things to say. So first of all, you're thinking about why you were ill, how you were feeling. Then you were thinking about all the people, Tom, that helped you. And then on the back, how did you take your medicine? What type of medicine was it? And finally, how did it make you feel? Okay, what I want you to do is I want you to draw a picture to show you being ill. And then you can do some writing, you two, to go with it. Oh, you were dehydrated. Goodness me. Goodness me.
And what does that mean, anti-inflammatory?
It's a medicine.
And what's it to do, do you know?
To stop things off getting too swollen.
Brilliant, absolutely, yes.
I learned that you can report things that happened to you already and put them in a kind of grid.
Bailey, why did you need to take medicine? What's in your first box? Why did you need to take medicine?
Tummy bug.
You had a tummy bug. Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Bailey. We were talking about the type of medicine that you had. Luke.
I had hay fever and I took it by this thing that went like that.
Is that to help you breathe?
I had to breathe out and in.
You had to breathe out and in. Oh, excellent. That's very interesting. So that was...
I think would like her to make it a bit, like maybe a bit more scientific words. I wouldn't really mind that.
Pencils away.
So how did Chloe perform?
Chloe, thank you very much indeed for letting me join that science lesson. I'd like to start straight away by saying that I think some of your generic teaching skills are really good, and there's lots of lovely touches and techniques going on, listening and sharing. Wonderful. Yeah. So if you stand back from the lesson, how did you feel it went?
I think, you know, the learning intention is the role of medicines, and obviously it's vast. I think possibly, you know, there are things I kind of thought afterwards, I didn't sort of go into much detail about that, maybe I should have done.
I think you've hit the nail on the head, really. And I suppose if I look at the shape of the lesson in terms of actually what amount of content we got out of it, we were on the carpet for quite a long time.
We were.
Good half hour almost.
Yes.
And I have to say, I totally support starting from their experiences, building on that. But if you stand back and look at the science content as to how much new science did they learn, I think with those super receptive, willing pupils, they could learn more.
Right.
The actual vocabulary, which was rich around the room, wasn't rich brought together.
Yeah.
I mean, anti-inflammatory, jolly difficult to spell. I had to think about, you know, and cough and all those really ones. And possibly where we could have really gone a bit more to town was the really significant difference between preventative medicine and curing.
Okay.
Because the word vaccination skimmed past the horizon. Again, difficult one to spell, could have gone on the board.
Yeah.
It's always in the whole skill of, isn't it, of teaching science to young ones is the clarity they need, keeping it very simple for them, but equally not so simple that you might be sowing a seed of confusion in the future.
Yeah.
But they're a joy to teach.
Yes.
And I think they're ready to go further in subject content.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much again.
Thank you. I'm really, really pleased that generically she thinks my teaching is good. You know, I'm slightly disappointed the actual kind of content of the lesson didn't go slightly better, but also a lot to learn from it, which is great, which is, you know, what it's all about.
The inspector highlighted Chloe's need to sharpen up the science content in her lessons while building in challenges for the most able pupils. With the first observation now behind her, it's time to bring on the experts. To boost Chloe's progress, help comes from voice and communications coach Ulrika Schulte-Bauklo and primary science consultant John Stringer. They start by watching Chloe's lesson.
Medicines, fantastic, you're absolutely right.
I generally think she really tries to make things cheerful, colourful.
Yeah, but vitamins help us, don't they?
She's obviously enthusiastic about the subject, which is not an easy one to teach, but she hasn't actually done the story preparation is necessary to have had a clearer structure.
Okay. How do we know what order these boxes go in?
I notice she really suffers with her voice and try to help her, particularly with her gestures. I would like her more to reach into the room and to make herself more felt to all of them.
What we're going to do this afternoon is have a look at the lesson that you taught and look at ways in which we can make a good lesson into one that's outstanding. And I think one of our concerns is that it was a bit on the sort of science light side.
Yes, to an extent I was perhaps relying on the knowledge that I have.
A lot of science is not common sense.
Yeah.
And many of us grow up with a common sense understanding of science which
Yeah.
gets us by.
Yeah.
But actually when you apply it, particularly to what the children are doing in the classroom, it doesn't necessarily fit. So one of the things that I think is important is to ensure that you have got the factual knowledge at your fingertips.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing that I felt that would have made a real difference was to have got your facts in order and to told the story.
Okay.
The first thing is, of course, to look at the range of drugs and what they're likely to do. And you touched on all of these. The next thing is to say that the body is a barrier to this.
Right.
That in order to get the drugs into us, we've got to find ways of crossing that barrier,
Okay.
and either by taking things orally or putting patches or creams on ourselves. You did all of this,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
not quite
yeah.
locked together. Now, had you had those in place, it would have helped you to discard the bits that you didn't need, where children were either repeating or presenting you with something that had already been given
Yeah.
to you. And that
Right.
might have led, I think, into something
Yeah.
a bit better structured and a bit clearer.
Okay.
Some people would say that your job with those children was a doddle, but you actually have a very hard job to do too, because you're facing children who are already extremely knowledgeable, who you have to extend and stretch and push, which
Yeah.
is very hard work.
Extending those children that need to sort of go beyond year 2, really, I suppose.
The
in a
danger is to
way.
begin to cover Key Stage 2 curriculum.
Yes,
And there might be a
so-
temptation to assume it's going to work, but somebody's
Yeah.
thought that conceptually that's
Yeah.
best suited to
Yeah.
older children. But, for example, if we looked at our medicine bottles and you asked them to design something that would actually do the same job as this commercial one, you could actually extend them into something that gets their thinking going.
Yeah.
But more broadening than going up the curriculum. There's also veterinary science at this level, which sounds silly, but
Yeah.
they love animals. Of course,
Yeah.
children adore animals. I would look at those sorts of areas,
Okay.
broadening, extending, building on, because QCA is only a skeleton.
Yeah.
Building on that to the exciting things that they could do.
Yeah.
So great. So if you just freeze this for a moment, how does it actually feel?
Sort of not slightly odd, a bit pointless.
You have contradictory things in you. On the one hand, you know you have to communicate. On the other hand, you're holding back. This is one of the reasons, by the way, that your activity is all up there, is that your voice has a lot to do here because there's not enough support from down here. So we are just losing now your shoulder area up because all these muscles have an effect to your voice.
Ulrika works on Chloe's voice to make it smoother and less strained.
Yeah, so what I like you now is you do a little bit of Tarzan in the front. So
Okay.
very gently, exactly, you are starting going around there. And what I like you now is, first of all, you do a sigh like ah. And off you go, don't worry if it comes croaky out. And ah. Brilliant, do it once more. And ah. And can you do meow?
Meow. Works on.